John, let's have a look at the double header on this coming Saturday.
Yeah, Stevie, I suppose this is the big weekend in hurling in Tipperary. Knockout, all the quarterfinals on. Starting on Saturday at 3:15 in the stadium there, we have the champions Killidangan up against Mycarthy, I suppose, who are probably slight outsiders in this game. But, you know, I said they're probably the outsiders of the 8 that's left. But, you know, Killidangan had a good run this year so far there. They came through the north, won the final against Tummyvara there with a late goal. And they continued that into the county championship there. Had a bit of a scare against Loughty in the opening round. They got over the line though, 4 in extra time there. They scored 2 goals and a point in extra time there to tie the game at 4-20 all. And it was still a big score to put up, but it was also a big score for them to concede. They came out in the next game and they hit Templederry there, in the round 2. And they scored 4-31 against them, an incredible score again, but they conceded 2-17. And then in the third round 3 game, they came up against Brackens now, and they hit 2-30 against Brackens and beat them well. But I suppose Brackens at that stage had already qualified for the quarter final, for the knockout stages, and they were involved in the football as well the following week. So I'd say they were probably, you know, playing at a small bit cagey. They didn't have a full team out, Brackens there. But that put Killidangan into top spot in that group 4. And now they're up against Mycarthy on Sunday there. Mycarthy had a sort of a, you know, they beat Brackens in the semi-final of the mid-championship before, putting it up to Loughmore in that final there. And probably for 50 minutes of that game they were equal to whatever Loughmore threw at them, but then they had a dismissal, I think, around that with 10 minutes to go, and they sort of fell apart after that. And Loughmore, you know, finished I think 9 points. What was it? 120. What did they in the finish there? 23 points to 114, like in the finish, or 125 to 116, 9 points, and then they come into the championship and they had an expected victory over Rosgray in that game. Came up against the Sarsfield in round 2, and Sarsfield, they were, you know, it was probably Sarsfield were way better than them, Stevie. And then they came into the last game against Mullinahone there, and they were expected to get over the line on that, and they did. So that's where we are with them. Look, it is a long time since Mycarthy have advanced to the real knockout stages of the championship.
But John, are they the surprise package so far?
They probably are, but then I suppose if you go on last year, they didn't have a great year last year, but they are, I think, they would be the surprise package this year, Stevie. But I think that, you know, that run will come to an end, I think, on Saturday, because let's be honest, you know, Killidangan are still the team to beat, I think, in the championship this year. They've been putting up big scores, but I suppose the other side of the coin is they have been conceding a good lot of scores this year, Killidangan as well, like, and that's probably something that they have probably working on now for the last couple of weeks. But I think one way or another, I think Killidangan will advance to the semi-final, Stevie.
Okay, move on to the next one then.
So the next game we have, the second game is a real one, real humdinger altogether.
Tummyvara and JK Brackens.
Yeah, 5 o'clock in the stadium on Saturday. You know, we spoke about Tummyvara there, beaten in the North final there. A late goal by Killidangan there. I think it was level pegging coming in to the closing minutes of it, and Killidangan, you know, got over the line there. It's a long time since Tummyvara has won a county championship. I think you have to go back to 2008, I think, something like that. Or definitely back there.
The time of George Fenn, Tommy Dunn and company.
Yeah, and that's a long time by Tummyvara standards. Like, there's a lot of people have gone through that club since that, and you know, didn't get their hands on the medal, and they are, I think, second in the Roll of Honour in Tipperary. But they got to the semi-final last year, and they are there on merit. They had a sort of a mixed run in the championship there so far. You know, as I said, the quarter-final up north, they beat Rosgray only by a point, and that was probably a surprise that Rosgray were so close to them, because we know where Rosgray are now. Rosgray are in relegation. They beat Nina then in the semi-final by what was it, 121 to 22 points, and went down, as I said, to Killidangan. But then they came into the championship, and Bursley got him in the first round, 117 to 18. That was a sort of a a bit of a surprise, you know. But then they came at Drum in round 2 there, 124 to 119, and then in round 3 that was a big win for them against Killarowan, and Killarowan were sort of expected to win that round 3 game, but Tumivara, you know, finished up in second place in that group, and they're on merit. And they're up against Brackens, and we spoke about Brackens there. Brackens went out in the quarter final they beat Holy Cross in the quarter final in the mid before going out in the semi final.
Did you think at that stage that was a surprise result?
I did, because I suppose we were going on last year's form. You see, they ended up in the relegation final last year, but I suppose when you'd look back on it, they had a lot of injuries early on last year, and that's probably why they ended up in relegation.
Okay.
Now Clonouty beat them in the semi-final of that by 3 points, and then they went on and they put out the Church, which was probably a surprise in that relegation final last year. But they came into this year, and I suppose they came in under the radar into the championship. We saw the first day a big victory over Templederry, that they scored 6-26 in that game. You know, and then they came out the next day in round 2, and they really blasted Clonouty out of it for the best part of 50 minutes until a late surge there. Clonouty got a few goals late on and put a bit of respectability on the score. But then when they came to Kildadangan in round 3, they had already qualified at that stage. So I wouldn't, read too much into that. But who will win on Saturday? It's going to be very close, but I'm going to go for Tumivara on it.
Okay, I'm going to go over to Michael McCarthy. Michael, we're now going to have a look at the 2 games on Sunday. You have Lockmore Castleiney taking on Kilrun McDonough's. What a game lies in store here. You also have Tullow Sarsfields and Nina Airog. They're going to battle it out.
Certainly are, Stevie. Yeah, first up on Sunday is the meeting of Lockmore and Kilruan, live on TG4 Sunday at 2:15. Both teams going very well in the championship. Lockmore coming into it 3 wins from 3, went about their business very, very well in the group stages. Won their 3 games, I would say, handy enough. Had a big victory over Lara day 1 by 13 points, 421 to 117. Second day against Holy Cross, 21 points to 14, and were never really in trouble, winning by 7. And the last day then against Nina, I suppose this was the tricky one for them, and they ended up winning by a point, 220 to 122, and Nina had a chance right at the very end. Jake Morris had a 21-yard free which he blasted over the bar. Had it gone into the back of the net, Nina would have topped the group, so it was it was that close. But look, Lockmore have been playing very well, Stevie. They've had 12 scorers throughout the 3 games in the county championship. John McGrath top scoring there with 24 points. He has 4 from play. Kieran McGrath and Noel McGrath 1-5 and 6 points. And then they have the 2 Conleys back now, which are a big addition to Lockmore. Kieran Conley has 8 points from play around the middle of the field, half forward line, and Ed Conley is back there for the last 2 games as well.
Huge asset.
They're huge assets. Like Kieran Conley, I suppose when he was part of Liam Cahill's under 20 and under 21 team back in the late teens, there was tipped as a guy that could really contribute at senior level, and
he had plenty of potential, Mike.
Plenty of potential. Just very unlucky with injuries, I will say, over the last 3 or 4 years, and I think he did a bit of travelling as well. But it probably all coincided with him being injured, and but he's a real addition back to Lockmore now. On the other side, Kilruan, I suppose similar to when John was talking about the Brackens, Kilruan are in relegation there last year, and that was a big surprise coming off winning Danbreen the year before. But I suppose it shows how competitive the championship is. And look, I don't know whether Kilruan over celebrated or they maybe they thought after winning one that they didn't have to do too much. But I know they had guys away. Paddy Williams was away in Australia, and a couple of guys injured as well. So I suppose that all contributed, and no team can be missing guys of that calibre. They've had two wins and a loss in the championship so far. They beat Drum the first day, scoring 420 to 125, win by 4 points. Beat Burris the second day, 118 to 117, and then they lost out to Toom, as John said, by 4 points there in round 3, 220 to 119. Look, I'd say they probably would have liked to have done better against Tumivara. They could have knocked them out of the championship had they won. But look, they're into the semi-finals. They're in on second place. would say on the head-to-head with Toom. Willie Cleary scoring very well for them, 34 points there, 8 from play. Keane Darcy, who has long been their I suppose their sharpshooter, 2-5 from play, and Tom Cleary, then another one of the Clearys, 1-6. But they also have the two Morgans, Craig and Aaron, in the half back line, and of course Jerry Cahill is still knocking around, only 25 or 6 years old, around the middle of the field. So look, there's a reason that TG4 looked for this game, Stevie. It's probably the pick of the four quarterfinals, as in maybe the winner isn't as sticking out as possibly in the other games, but I reckon it'll be a humdinger. Lockmore score on average about 27 points in over their 3 games, whereas Killeran are in around the 25 points. But I suppose Lockmore potentially had a bit of an easier group with Lara in that, with 2 teams putting up big scores against Lara. So scoring wise, it'll be very tight. I think both teams like to go out and play hurling for like the way we like to see it, kind of man on man, 15 and 15. Noel McGrath does a lot of the, I suppose, the quarterbacking for Lockmore, to use that term. And but look, Lockmore as mid champions, I would cautiously tip them, but I don't think there'll be too much in it.
The last quarter-final will see Thurles Sarsfields taking on Nina Erogue. This one, maybe Sars should be maybe slight favourites going in ahead of this game.
Yeah, look, Thurles they just went about their business, Stevie. They have 3 wins in the group stages, kind of no issue. It was easy enough for them. Now, look, I would say when you looked at the groups at the start, you said Thurles are going to get 3 wins in that: Roscrea, Mycarkey and Mullinahone, and they did so easily enough. The 29 points to 119, 320 to 213 against Mycarkey, and 220 double scores against Mullinahone in the last day. A game that meant nothing, I suppose, really for either side. Roscrea, in round 3, 228 to 114. Aidan McCormack there, 33 points, 13 from play. Conor Stakelum, 14 points, 8 of those came in round 1 in the first half, actually, against Mullinahone. And Owen Purcell then with 6 points. They also have, I suppose, Jack Lanigan and Peter Paddy Creedon, who would be well known from underage circles. Both came on the last day and got a goal. Look, Thurles are, as I said, going about their business nice and quietly, no fanfare, scoring 31 points per game, like huge scoring going into this quarter final. Nina, on the other hand, scraped into the quarterfinals with 1 win. That was a facile win against Lara, where they scored 7-28. Jake Morris scoring 4-5 of that total. That was their only win of the campaign so far. They lost to Holy Cross day 1, 24-19. That big win over Lara, 7-28 to 3-7, and then losing out to Lockmore 2-20 to 122 in round 3. Jake Morris top scoring for them, 5-15, with 5-13 or 4-13 of that coming from play, which is big scoring. Mikey Heffernan at 28 points, 125. He gets a lot of his scores from frees, and Tommy Heffernan also. Their backline, I suppose, is where they have a lot of strength, and Conor McCarthy is coming back into that backline now. He'll add a lot of experience there, former tip hurler, and I'd say will be again if he can regain his form. Sam O'Farrell, Mason Cawley, also part of that. Mason Cawley was part of and Sam O'Farrell part of the under 20 panel this year. So look, both of them hover in around the 31 points per game, but Nina's one, I suppose, is skewed by the big score they put up against Lara. I don't think going on form. Now look, quarterfinals, I suppose, take on a life of their own, but if you're to look at the form of the 2 teams coming into it, you can't see past Thurles Sarsfields.
Gentlemen, thank you both for joining me in connection with the preview of the Senior Hurling Championship quarterfinals. Mike McCarthy and John O'Shea, thank you both.